Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending the place you are around the world. You know, welcome to One Coffee with Cabana, and in Spanish, Un Café con Cabana. And you see that I came to, this place is beautiful. And we will talk about this place. I'm in Israel now because I came to talk with Tamar Marvin. She's wonderful. And today we will talk about a scholar journey and a digital vision. Tamar, she has specialized in medieval Jewish studies, but she also has a nice view about the modern life. And we will see that combination in this podcast. So again, welcome and thank you very much, Tamar, to opening your place and also in Israel. Thank you very much for being here.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have a wonderful journey, and we're talking about this academic study in medieval and early modern Jewish study, and also you have your experience at the Yeshivat Maharat. And over there, you have reinforced the passion for Jewish scholarship, accessible to everybody. And I would like if you can explain to our audience what is all this idea about.
Sure. So let me weave the two things together, a little bit about how I came to study all these things and why that really means to me how important it is to create on-ramps for people to make Jewish learning accessible to all. So I was I was born in Israel, actually. I was raised mostly in the United States. My parents were secular Israelis. So I didn't have much of a religious education growing up. I became religious when I became older. And in university, when I was an undergraduate student in university, I sort of had all these big questions, and I ended up studying literature and philosophy and journalism. And what really happened is I had questions and I wanted to answer them, but all the answers that I found were very much from the Western Christian tradition. And I said, there must be Jewish philosophy. Where can I find it? And I was lucky enough to find it in the Middle Ages. I discovered a Rambam and Ramban and Ralbag, all people who wrote very deeply about the meaning of the Torah and the big questions in life. And I became fascinated by them. I wanted to go study them. That's what brought me to graduate school in the beginning. And when I got to graduate school, I really had a lot of learning to make up. I was fortunate that I did learn to read and write Hebrew as a child, but I had very little practice, and I really won back my Hebrew and my Jewish literacy line by line, sometimes word by word. And I kept thinking, it doesn't have to be this hard. If you just explain to people in clear language things like the structure of a book. For example, one of the great works of Jewish philosophy is Moreh Nevuchim. And it's organized in 3 parts, and each part has chapters, relatively short chapters, and each part treats a different subject. So if you just say to someone starting out, this is how the book is laid out, it makes it much easier to approach. And I think those tools are really important to create. Then after I finished my graduate studies, I lectured in universities for several years, and ultimately, I really wanted to learn not only about the worlds of Rambam and Ramban, but also about the content that they worked with, which is Torah itself. I wanted to give my thinking to Torah. So that's what led me to Yeshivat Maharat. And there I studied for 4 years, full time. I learned Gemara, the Talmud, and Halakha, and other subjects as well. And now I feel like I can really converse with my medieval friends.
Well, that's a real passion, eh? When the story about being kind of a secular and then trying to discover yourself, and you found that you also have a good source about medieval ages, and also combining your ideas and what you wanted to learn about this one, and also what you want to tell others about this one. Because you're right, when you go into those details and you know the meaning of each chapter, you're able to tell others, what is this about. So and then I can see that you are working as a Jewish content creator, and also it's amazing. So you are going to the depth of Jewish texts and history to a wider audience. Breaking down these complex ideas into meaningful insights. And what are you doing in the area?
It's a funny story. It all started really when one day I was a little bit bored and I had a little bit of time. And I went on what was then Twitter, now it's X, and I wrote about Jews and astrolabes, which are a type of medieval navigational instruments. And there's a very interesting history of that. And what I tried to do is bring it to life, to explain how this is important, how it related to the discovery of the New World, even how it puts Jewish curiosity and scientific discovery like right in the middle of history. And to my surprise, there was an enormous response to this thread that I wrote. And I thought, okay, this is fun. I'll keep doing this. One day, and I kept writing about very obscure people, sort of imagining that everyone knew the sort of major figures in Jewish history. And then one day I wrote a thread about Ibn Ezra. And I thought, this will not go over well. Everyone knows so much about him. I was totally wrong. And people just responded. They were so curious and had so much engagement. And I thought, you know what? This is something that I can do. I was given really a gift when I was accepted to graduate school from my teachers who taught me, and then in yeshiva. And it's a gift that I can give to share that information, which for me, once you spend years looking into it, it becomes very familiar. But it's really not familiar. It's outside of what many people learn in school in different countries where Jews live today. So many people don't have access to that information about their own history. So I started and I began writing a newsletter, and it kind of introduced, my first series was called Coffee with the Rishonim. Rishonim
Is that right?
Yes.
It's like a coffee with Kevana, coffee with...
Yes,
okay.
With the Rishonim. And the idea is that you're having a conversation with them, if you were to have a conversation with them, sort of like we're having now, what would they tell you about their lives, about their purpose, about their works? And that's available for free on the internet at my Substack. And I just had a tremendous response to it, and it made me think about what other resources I could create.
And you have this vision behind this. You have trmarvin.org, and I went to see what you have there, and it's amazing that several studies and guides for structural learning. You have articles providing coming from historical and insights. You have analysis of foundational Jewish texts. So there's a lot to read and to learn. Let me go to those details, because this is what we would like to tell people around the world, what you're doing over there, which is again really amazing.
So I started off with my website. Everyone says you need a website to collect your work and to show sort of what you're about. So that's how it started. And when I was picking the URL, I was like, I don't want .com. .com means it's com for commercial. I thought this is something that is like mesirut nefesh, right? It's really a mission, a personal kind of mission. So I chose .org for organization.
Yes.
And I started off writing very kind of specialized articles. But then when I saw the response that I was getting to the more kind of introductory materials and the access that I was creating online, I started to shift a little bit, and I started to write guides. So I began with the parasha, the weekly Torah portion. And I wanted to create a resource that was a little different from everything else I found on the internet. There's, of course, wonderful Jewish content on the internet,
Yes.
but no one kind of broke down each parasha into its thematic units to kind of show you at a glance what it was about. And I picked out the most important terminology, and I put it in both Hebrew and English, so that people can have access to the terms. Sometimes when you read them in English, you don't know what the Hebrew is. So I have it in Hebrew characters as well as in Hebrew in transliteration, and then in English translation as well. And I pull out what I find to be the sort of key psukim, the key verses in the parasha, so that people can kind of dip in and out. And review.
I guess that those are published every week.
So I publish those every week over the course of the year. They also have information. I collected a lot of information about if you want to know what the haftarah is, the part of the reading that follows the Torah in different traditions. So I tried to collect both Sfaradi, Ashkenazi, Taimani traditions so that people could compare and see, and they're interlinked. So you can, if there's one portion that's very linked or important to refer to another one, they're already linked there. So I hope that it creates a resource that people can really use for reference or to introduce themselves to the material.
And Tamar, your audience is mainly from the US and from Israel, or you have people coming from other places?
So I have to check because it changes all the time, but to my great happiness, I get people from all over the world. I write in English, so I have a lot of English, Anglophone countries. So also the UK and Australia and South Africa, but also from all over the world, which is amazing.
Okay, great. And let me go and how do if I need to tell someone else, how do I begin studying Jewish texts? And you do have an answer.
So I think about this question a lot. I think that so traditionally, there's two different kinds of modes of study that we talk about in sort of traditional Jewish education. One is called Bekiut, which means a broad knowledge of a lot of different areas, kind of like what maybe in English we would say is literacy. And the other one is iyun, which is in depth. It's taking a text and really looking at it deeply and carefully and going line by line. And both modes, I think, are very important. So what I would recommend to someone starting out is to think of something that you want to learn broadly and something that you're passionate about that you want to learn in great depth. And you can accomplish each in different ways. I would always recommend to people, if you can. So for example, if you're brand new to Torah, there's so many resources and it's been translated into so many languages that you can compare the Hebrew, even if you can only just read the letters. You can look at the Hebrew alongside the translation and see, there's a lot of words in English as opposed to in Hebrew. I wonder what that means. You can get curious about the text itself, and that would be kind of like an iyun kind of study. And then if you wanted to just kind of introduce yourself to the whole scope, you could keep reading quickly in translation and get a sense, this is what the whole Sefer Bereshit, the book of Genesis, the first book of the Torah, this is the story that it tells. And that way you get kind of like a bird's eye view. And so I would recommend kind of both modes and giving yourself the opportunity as much as you can to expose yourself a little bit to the original language. It's very slow. It took me many, many years to be able to be completely fluent and read the text just right off the page. But I'm proof that it can be done, and it's done one step at a time. So don't think that you can't. Try. Give yourself the space to do it and to make mistakes.
And yeah, I mean, you need to, you always need to can, you need to try to do, you need to go ahead. And from this experience that you have studied a lot and you have learned deeply, those are the type of information that you have in your .org.
I'm sorry?
As I can see that you have learned a lot and very deeply. Are those the articles that you publish in your website .org?
So right now I'm concentrating on making things like reading guides. So in addition to the weekly Torah portion that I talked about, now I'm going through the rest of the Tanakh. So I just started on the book of Joshua, Sefer Yoshua, and I'm going to complete the whole thing and kind of break it down into thematic units. I'm not the first person to do this. There's a number of very famous both medieval and modern commentaries that do similar things. But I hope by making it accessible in a modern language on the internet that it will help people, even if you're just trying to think, I want to learn this book, but I want to know what happened before. So you can look at the outline of what happened in the book right before the one you're reading. So that's my goal with those guides. And then I started a project this year, or last year, I mean.
Okay.
My birthday, my Hebrew birthday, and my civil birthday were coincided. And I thought, I should, yes, which is a rare occurrence. Yes. So I thought, I should do something to mark this. And I decided I had just graduated from yeshiva and I really wanted to keep up my learning. So I decided, with the goal of finishing in about 10 years, Bezrat Hashem, I hope, to read the entire Talmud. So I started with the very first chapter of the very first tractate, Masechet Brechot, and I'm writing guides to that as I go along to kind of give people a sense of what commentaries there are in each Masechet and each tractate, what are the major topics of each chapter, what is the content, a summary of each chapter. So again, you can kind of find your place in the text, or you can kind of strengthen your understanding as you go into reading it for the first time. And now I'm also expanding to philosophical texts, so people will hopefully have lots of different guides to follow them along in their study.
Yeah, I mean, and guys, and I can tell you, I've been to the website, and it's amazing. I mean, you can go and see and look and read. There's a lot of information, and I mean, it's amazing. And you go from one subject, and there's a detailed information, and then you want to do more. And then I went to another one, and then I went to another one. I can tell you my own experience. I was there for almost 2 or 3 hours, going from one. Yes. From one.
That is absolutely my goal. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, because it's amazing. I mean, I started when I say medieval, I say I want to touch on based on that one, and then I went to other one, and then I went to other one, and it's amazing, and it's really amazing. I have another comment. Jewish, we thrives in discussion, diversity, and connection, and there are two use three different ideas. Do you manage all this with all your audience? Because you can give as a gift what you're writing, and then you should have a discussion between people talking to you from various places around the world, and that should be very, very nice. How do you manage that one?
So in terms of the diversity of readership,
yes,
yeah. So I try to write with different audiences in mind. And so I always want what I'm writing to be understandable and accessible to someone who maybe doesn't have the background knowledge, but I also am thinking of the person who does have the background knowledge and wants to learn more about a particular text that they're studying. I know that when I approach a text, I'm a whole to parts thinker, right? This is a term from educational theory that, so I need to see the big picture before I can get into the small picture. Some people are exactly the opposite. They first want to know, here's a specific example, show me part of the text, and then I'll understand the big text. So people learn in different ways, and I try to think about that too. I do create different types of materials. Some are intended for beginners. Some are intended for people who are more experienced in learning that particular text. So I think about different readers, but in general, I really have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in people's ability to learn and the ability to think on a very high level, on a sort of serious level, even without a lot of background knowledge. So I try very hard to kind of really to respect the reader, whatever their particular story is, and to convey to them through the kind of hopefully the depth of what I'm trying to convey, that I believe in them, that I believe in their ability to learn even very difficult texts.
Something that you mentioned just now, respect the reader. I like that. I mean, it's important that you have that in mind, because when you respect the reader, you can go from a really beginner and to really, someone who knows a lot. And if you are able to open this scope from let's say 0 to 1, it's amazing. Can we think about the future, looking ahead? What do you think? Which type of exciting new projects are on the horizon? New resources, engagement tools, expanded collaborations. How can you invite the audience to be part of your journey?
So I love this question, because I always have one of those people who always has 12 different projects that they want to do. So one project that I'm working on right now, I'm about halfway through, is I'm writing my first book, which will be kind of like a book form of the Coffee with the Rishonim. And
so, excuse me, shall I also read a book, A Coffee with Kavanah, the future?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I have a teacher now.
And so I hope afterwards to write another book that will be more philosophical in nature. I would like to explore some of those original philosophical problems that brought me to the field to begin with. And I'm learning about computer programming now. So I'm hoping that leads to a number of new kinds of projects that I can expand to. So courses, and perhaps another kind of website as well.
And can you go deeper on that one? Because that's a nice project.
Yes. So as you started out by saying, I really am passionate about the remote past and the very contemporary present. And I'd love to bring them together. I really think that in the early modern period, the sort of later period that I studied, you can see the impact of print and of paper and of new technologies on the spread of Jewish knowledge in general, but Jewish knowledge within the community, that is so profound. And I feel that the internet holds that promise for our generation. So I really want to... I'm sorry?
Is that right? I mean, there's a good promise about this one, because I also agree with you that if you use the internet in a good way, in a good manner that we are doing today, I mean, there's a lot to tell to the Jewish communities.
Yes, and I think that the accessibility of the internet, the material, in some ways it's really amazing. It returns a little bit to the way books were in the Middle Ages, where people would, this is especially true of Ashkenaz, would move around units of text, and and this is true of Sfarad and Ashkenaz alike, would revise their texts and would write notes and would change the version, right? Today we would say it's a different different version of the document. So it gets a little bit back into that kind of liveliness that print is relatively closed. It's a static text, but manuscripts and the internet and digital writing on the internet are a little bit more kind of dynamic and multi-authorial, and they have a lot of actually interesting characteristics in common. So I see a lot of promise in it, and I love to contribute to that.
Nice. Well, time is flying. We have covered many topics, subjects, ideas, future, past, and it has been a wonderful podcast. I would like to thank you about what you are doing for our communities around the world. Next idea, if also you can do it in another language, you can do it in Spanish, French, and other languages, it will also be very good. So that's another thing that you might think, because I know you can do it. So, but anyway, what you're doing with today with trmarvin.org, it's amazing, and all of these projects are also really nice. I would like to thank you for coming to the podcast. And guys, I need to invite you to the next and the next and the next one and the next one, because of this year we are covering, people in Israel, people in Africa, Jewish in Africa, Jewish in the US, Jewish in Latin America, and we have a wonderful ideas which we will be covering in the next few weeks. So thank you very much, Tamar, for being here with the Coffee with Kevin App. And I put in my book, I need to write a book. Yes. I need to write a book. So thank you very much. And it was a really wonderful time being with you. Guys, see you. Tamar, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.